So hi there, this is a quick overview of some of the new features in Stage Beta 4. One of the first things you'll see is that we now have an Unused Only checkbox here, and of course, well, seeing as we're pretty much finished with this tour, we can see that in fact Unused Only hides all the source images because they've all been used in the panorama. This is particularly useful if you've got a lot of source images and you're halfway through and some of them look a bit similar, as they often tend to, and you're not sure which ones you've already used. The next big thing, we can pop through going to the living room. Here you can see actually I've got auto leveling switched on, which is the new feature here, and this actually detects verticals in the panorama and levels the panorama automatically based on those verticals. Now you can delete any false positives, and you can also still always draw your own level lines, but this makes it dramatically quicker when there's good levels, detectable level lines in the panorama. It makes it very quick to level the panorama. The other thing that's particularly important to notice here, I'll click on another one here, is that we've actually got leveling on every single panorama now. So you can actually, there's no need to go level panoramas before you bring them into Stage. You can just stitch them or just bring them in if they're 360 images, and then level them straight away in here. So that's a pretty cool way to make sure that your geometry your panoramas are very level, and therefore you can create cleaner, quicker geometry straight away with that. So the next thing you'll see with the Beta 4 release is, just going to click on this, there's a bunch of upgrades to the player, and as the menu has changed a little bit, we've expanded some of the options. The real key option here being that we now have full support. It's not going to work right now, but if you're on a device such as a Gear VR or a Oculus Go, you'll see this option in the internet player. You can click on it and it'll switch automatically to WebVR mode. So we have full support for WebVR. It does also work on a Rift if you have Firefox. WebVR seems to be broken in Chrome right now, so we can't do much about that. But provided that you have a working WebVR device, things work pretty well. We've had some trouble with some of the navigation controls on Rift with Firefox, but rest assured we're working on that. And the next thing, which is worth looking at, I'm going to go into the tour editor. And now if we go here with the visual guides, I can switch on the nav map. Oops, there we go. And we can see all the navigation between the different panoramas. This is now what controls the movement. And we can actually go ahead and select a panorama, and you can see which panoramas are connected. You can also connect new panoramas if you want. I'm going to actually take that out. And if we go to the model view, we can actually see this connection map in 3 dimensions. So we can actually see exactly what our user's navigation, your viewer's navigation, is going to be inside the space, and we can prune and add any navigations. For example, here we've got a navigation we want to connect to this guy. We can add it in there, make sure we've got a navigation route through that door, and we can look around and make sure there aren't any navigations. There's not going to be any movement through the wall anywhere, because it's actually, particularly in VR, it's quite uncomfortable to be moving through walls when you don't expect to, or through ceilings or floors even. So now we have a proper navigation map. Here obviously I've got one missing navigation that I want to add, so I'm going to connect that to there, and now I can make sure that I can go up and down my stairs without any problems. I might actually want to prune a couple of these paths just to make sure that the path that the user is going to take when they move through the space is as close as possible to the actual path that they would take in the real place. And there we go, we've got that. I'm going to take this one off as well. And that's pretty much it. So we go back to a plan view, we go back to our preview, and we've got our navigation built. And in addition to that new kind of navigation, what we can also do, put back into the plan view here, if we select this line, we can actually set the type of transition between 2 points. So for example, we can either have the normal travel movement transition, but you can also teleport. So if there are, for example, 2 rooms that are actually separate in space, you can connect them and have a teleport transition to go between them. So the one other thing that's worth looking at, in addition to all the bug fixes, is we've added a feature that starts to make it possible to use to have backgrounds. So for example, if you've got a deck or a gallery such as this room here, and we can see that there's some background there, we really don't want the background to look and to move as though it's part of the room. That kind of ruins the effect. So what we're able to do now is we can go and select walls and set them as open, set them as none, and so I'm going to go up here, set this one as none, oops, move it out of the way, then I'm going to put around here, select this one, so none. Now of course, because we don't know if the sky is actually going to be square, we can't do that with the sky, so you have to draw the door into the ceiling there. We can stretch it out until hit the edge. And set to none, so they're all set to none. So now what we'll find is that if we go to the tour editor, and we'll pop into our preview, we're going to choose our deck. Okay, we still need to rebake, so I'm going to rebake. And this will take a few seconds because we're basically rebaking the whole tour. What we're going to find, hopefully at this point, is that now the background moves far more like a background because it's basically on a much further away piece of geometry. So this gives us a kind of more realistic sense of our immediate environment relative to the world around us. So that's about it for the features in Beta 4. Once again, just to summarize, we've done a lot of work on responsive so that we have much more general support throughout the application, the website, for different devices. We've introduced WebVR support in the player and the tour editor so that you can now actually publish and view published tours on WebVR compatible devices. We've done a lot of performance improvements on the tour player, so faster loading times, smoother navigation. We've introduced automatic leveling for panoramas. We've enabled leveling on every single panorama, not just on the reference. And we've created a nav map system, an editable nav map system that allows you to control the navigation between panoramas and moving between points. And we've created this sort of method to create background displays from panoramas, so you can actually have sort of some degree of sort of open space support. We'll be improving on that as time goes forward. So we've done a bunch more tweaks all over the place. You'll find in the UI just refinements and improvements here and there and fixes. In addition to all that, we've also introduced done about 60 bug fixes, mostly working on areas to make sure that the overall tool is more robust, that you don't have problems with corruption and scenes and rooms. And so that's pretty much it for Beta 4.
hope you enjoy making tours. Thanks very much for watching.